Chapter 23 of Puss in Boots Jr. in Fairyland. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Puss in Boots Jr. in Fairyland by David Cory. Chapter 23. The Fortune Teller. "Who's that?" roared the giant when he heard the knocking on his front door, as I told you in the last story. And then he opened the door, and who do you suppose was standing outside? A little dwarf all dressed in red with a high-peaked hat upon his head. "What do you want?" asked the giant, for he didn't like the dwarf, and neither did the dwarf like the giant, you know. And then Puss ran out to see what was the matter, and the little dwarf said, "Come here, Puss Jr., I want to whisper in your ear." And when the giant heard this, he made a grab for Puss, but the little cat was too quick for him and darted out of the cave. And it was a good thing he did, for the giant really was a bad man and very likely would have done him some harm, and that was the reason the little dwarf had come after Puss. "Come with me," said the dwarf, and he led Puss down the hillside till they came to a great hollow tree. "This is my home," said the dwarf. And he opened a little secret door in the side of the old tree and beckoned Puss to follow him. And then he closed the door, and just then they heard a dreadful noise of breaking branches, and the wicked giant came tearing through the forest. But he couldn't find them, for they were safely inside the old hollow tree, and the door didn't show the least little bit. Well, pretty soon the giant went away, so Puss said good-bye to the little dwarf and went upon his way. And by he came to a little cottage, where lived an old woman who told fortunes. So Puss went in and asked her to tell him what was going to happen to him. So the old woman said, "Give me your right forepaw, and I'll tell you. You will live to be a very old cat, and someday you will have a lot of money. Your father is very famous and lives in a great castle with a moat around it, and his master is a good lord and his lady a lovely woman." "You are right," said Puss. "You are indeed a wonderful fortune-teller." And he gave her a gold piece, and then he went upon his way. And by he heard the sound of wheels, and, looking back, he saw a splendid coach approaching, drawn by 4 milk-white horses with gold harness and waving plumes. And when the coach came up, the driver drew in his steeds, and the lady who was riding inside called out, "Come here, little Puss in Boots." So Puss stepped up to the side of the coach, and the lady asked him to get inside. "For," said she, "it is dusty traveling on the road." And after they had gone for maybe a mile or more, a band of robbers rushed out of the woods and surrounded the coach, and then they took the lovely lady and Puss prisoners and carried them off to their hiding place in the woods. And in the next story you shall hear something very strange, but you must wait until then, for I don't know myself just now how Puss and the lovely lady will ever be able to escape. End of Chapter 23.